Good evening, friends. On behalf of HRD Committee of BCS, I, Nanesh Patade, welcome you all to the Student Study Circle meeting on bank audit, recent developments in reporting and audit procedure. We all will agree that there are tight timelines with regards to the completion of bank audit, like branch and every other concurrent audit, bank branch audit, LFAR. Our speaker for today is Mr. Gaurav Save. Gaurav Save is a partner. Gaurav is a partner in GMAS and Associates and fellow member of ICA. Yes, he has spoken at various forums of ICS, BCS, the Chamber of Tax Consultant, Public Awareness Trust, various trust bodies, schools, colleges, and has delivered around 115 lectures in various parts of India on various topics and issues. He also actively contributes to BCS referencer from year 2017-18 for GST and other topics, other taxation topics. He also contributes to GSTPM, WIRC newsletter, and WIRC referencer. Welcome, Gaurav, to the Students Forum. I would like to hand over to Mr. Gaurav to take our student study circle forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nanesh. Good evening to all the friends here. It's interesting to see so many youngsters are also interested in the study sessions. So I hope the first part that when all of you have joined here, we can have a conversative session. So if you want anything, you can write yes, no in the chats, or if you have any questions, you can put that in the chat. Okay. Uh, First thing I would like to know that how many of you are actually having the statutory bank audits this year with your firms? Yes, no? At least in the chats. Yes. 1, 2, 3. 3 out of 39. Okay, increasing. And how many of you have been doing bank audits either at the earlier stage, maybe last year at the statutory level, or maybe in some other form like the internal audit, or you can say the concurrent bank audits and all. So you know the basic concepts of the bank audits. Question 2. So I assume Mihir, Namira, Vishita, they are answering for question 2. You have been already doing any or the other mode of the bank audits, right? For last year, I have been doing statutory audits. Good. Vishnu. Okay. So what about others? This is fairly around 6 to 8 people. So around 1/3 or 1/4 of the people. What about others? Happening. See, the reason to ask this question is basically the area or the topic as such is very vast topic. We have 2 hours with us. Now, when you say recent changes and reporting requirements, I would be more focusing on the LFAR issues which are coming. So what I'll do, I will share my Excel which we use at our firm level. And as far as procedures are concerned, I'll show how we use that Excel to the reporting Excel to make a holistic documentation also for your bank audit purposes and easier references. So you can use this Excel for maybe you can get it transported on your bank's PC, and because nowadays most of the banks have the LFR to be fed in online, you can then simply copy paste these parts and do your work faster, because at times it also does happen that LFR even though you save it, it doesn't get saved. In quite a few banks, this has been seen. So for this, you need to have backup of the comments what you have written there and backup of the workings which should be easily available. So most of the times articles do have this habit of doing the calculations on the calculator rather than keeping it in some documented form. So make sure you don't adopt to such calculations, and even if you're doing with the use of the calculator, make sure you are noting it down properly. Okay, so I'll straight away start with sharing my screen. Visible? Any one of you can tell yes, no? Yes, visible. Okay. Hmm. So if all of you, those who have been doing, there were one or two people who had said that they have been doing the bank audits earlier also. So in those cases, you know how the LFAR is. So LFAR is specifically the long form of audit report. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me whether this is the audit report or this is something else other than the audit report? Is this the audit report or is this something else other than the audit report? No, this is not the audit report. Okay. Anybody else? No, sir, this is not the audit. So two answers. Okay. So what is your audit report? It is basically similar to the one which you issue for your companies, private limited or the limited companies, with a few changes. Okay. So that you know wherein you give all the basis where you form the opinion. So audit report is something in which your basis of the opinion and your opinion, whichever it is there, whether it is unqualified, it is a qualified, or it is adverse or a disclaimer, whatever kind of opinion is there, that is clearly spelled out. So LFAR, although the name says it's a long form of audit report, this is more kind of a MIS, and it gives out specific questions and the systems. So if you see, this is more focused on the internal procedures, how the internal procedures of the, and if you see the changes which are specifically coming brought in, they are more focused on the internal procedures which are to be conducted by the banks. Okay, how effective they are, and what in your opinion should have been the effectiveness, or if not, then what improvement they should have done. Okay, so the focus is slowly coming on the processes as far as this particular LFR is concerned. Now this is your questionnaire. I have updated this questionnaire with the September circular of RBI last year, so which has updated the LFR. This is generally the audit remark. So when you're doing the audit, in this particular column, you can always keep on putting your audit remarks, so that this is saved together. Later on, you can simply mail this to the branch email ID. They can download it on your PC, particularly wherein you are using the software. If it is still manual, then you can use this for manual purposes also. But if not, then you can simply then take the comments from here and put it. Then audit procedures, when you say, so these are some of the standards which you have to refer. Okay, and some standard procedures what you can do have been laid down here. Now since we have only 2 hours, the procedures for the areas which are already existing in the existing LFR, I am not going to speak about. You can self read them, and if not able to understand, the two books which I would suggest that you should follow, one is a technical guide on the LFR issued and revised every year by the ICA, and second is the bank branch audit guidance note. So the first section is for the central statutory auditors, and second is for the statutory branch auditors, and then third is for the other audits, specialized functions and all. Okay, so accordingly you can have keep those things either in soft copy or hard copy, whatever it is, handy with you, even for your references. Most of the time this itself will give you a lot of solutions rather than you every time going and reaching out to your seniors. But make sure there is a effective communication between you and your seniors, because interpreting something on your own may not necessarily mean that it is correct interpretation. Okay, so it is your duty and responsibility also that you make sure that your principal or your audit manager or the audit in charge, whoever is there, is fully made aware about whatever observations you are finding out. Most important thing, however stupid you feel about asking that query, in bank audits you should always go and ask your manager or the senior. Make sure that just feeling that, oh, what will happen, he will laugh at me, such a stupid question and all, you never know. Most of the times the majority frauds have come out or they have been found out only by such stupid queries only. So you should not feel shy about asking any kind of queries, however illogical you feel. You are, wherever you feel that there is some deviation which is being found out, which you can by some logic put forth in front of your audit team or the manager, make sure you bring it out in front of them. Here now, this particularly I have not written anything, but when you are using this particular sheet, I will share this with Jnanesh. He can share it with the students whoever are joining in. Okay, so this documentation check. So here against every point you can write down whichever documentations you have checked in. Okay, so all of these document becomes your holistic working paper file. Also, you can give reference to the files, Excel files which you have used on the PC of the bank. If they are not providing it to you, you can write down the documentations for which hard copies you have taken, so you can make the segregations here. Then wherever there is a need for communication with those charged with governance, whether it is the higher management or the your central statutory auditors, and if for any of the points such communication has taken place, then you can take a reference to these standards and then accordingly mention here on what date what kind of communication was done and what is the brief of that communication. And lastly, the audit evidence. So various standards can help you to jot down what kind of evidence you want. uh, the most important thing, your evidence should be conclusive, okay, and it should be substantive. Okay, there is no scope for subjectivity in bank audits. Bank audit is wholly and wholly dependent on the objective criteria. Okay, I feel so, or he may feel so, or if this would have been done that way, all these things have no query, no area or no place in your audit report. These you can raise the doubts. On raising the doubts, you will have to apply your audit procedures. You will have to go and come and check whether you can generate a substantive evidence which can give you proper conclusions for your audit. If you are not able to conclude to your audit opinion, then such statements will hold no value. So this may be the first point of contact wherein you will need to have, see, the thought process should not be closed. Okay, but you should not let your report generate or turn out to be a suspicious audit report or just based on certain suspicions and no facts at all. Okay, so first 3 points: effective joint custody, cash bank balances checked, and generally significant balances are there. So these are all the repeat of the earlier years only. So joint custody, those who have been doing, they must be knowing there has to be two persons, a maker and a checker, a officer level and a clerical level, or rather the officer level and the managerial level. So these are the two levels wherein the cash is kept in the joint custody. Okay, these can be verified by some procedures which have to be in line. So I have listed down these procedures, whether it is CCTV or when you are doing in physical verification, you can see whether this is effectively been done or no. Okay, then carrying of cash balances, many times you will get a lot of reasonings here, whether it is the petrol pump accounts or a liquor shop account or the cash when is not available or not. But just have a look at this, that whether it is genuinely that is the reason, how many times they are actually lodging the cash carry vans. Okay, if that is not happening, then you need to report this very, and even if it is happening, still it is your duty to list down. So this is a one of the format. If it is available on your LFR, you can use it. Else in the wordings you can write down how many occasions you have found out. Now ATM balances were earlier also very well checked. There was no issue that ATM balances weren't checked, but this time specifically they have brought it out. So yeah, all the additions which have been done or the new clauses which have been brought in, I have marked them green in my Excel. Okay, so now, does the figure of balance in branch book in respect of cash with ATM tally with the accounts of balance with respective ATM based on year-end scrolls generated by the, if there is any difference, same should be reported. So 99% of the time, the balances won't tally because ATM verification or the scroll generation is generally done at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever time, but till 12 o'clock in the midnight. Okay, the ATM is functional, anybody can go and withdraw. It is not that being the last date the balances would be taken off. Okay, so for this very particular reason you will have to have the check for ATM balances also. Okay, there is high possibility that ATM scroll is generated other than at the end time, so balances will be there. But for this, what happens, the branch gets the reconciliation from their controlling office. Okay, so if there is any reconciliation difference, okay, between your books of accounts and your scroll, so next day you get a reconciliation report from the branch controlling office, or maybe in a course of day or two, and then you can see whether any item up to 31st of March was pending in the reconciliation. Because at times what happens, the person, if he is not the customer of your bank, he is of, say, you are auditing bank X, he is a customer of bank Y. Because you can use any bank's ATM in any bank, the Y bank's customer comes and he withdraws the money. Now by the time that account gets settled with that Y bank, there is a reconciliation, or the entry may be kept pending either in your suspense account or any reconciliation account. Okay, so such differences can be later on verified because they get automatically tallied at the backend processes. What is your job is only to simply go and check the process whether that system is there in force to reconcile the balances. Insurance cover is a old point. Again, nowadays insurance is taken at a branch as a whole, or sorry, bank as a whole, or the zone or the region as a whole. Okay, so just make sure you ask for the copy if there are. If not, then take this as a point in your management representation letter. Okay, that they are giving you in writing that the insurance of the cash, whether in transit or in hand in the branch, is been completed by the regional office or the head office at whatever stage it is. Okay, balances with Reserve Bank of India, State Bank of India, and other banks. Okay, for branches with treasury operations. So again, this will be limited to very few branches. Okay, so the first 3 points, balance confirmation and all, it is anytime we do take it whenever you are doing any kind of reconciliation, third party balance verification. But so in this case, the third party is a party with whom they are having these accounts you can find in the areas either just outside the outskirts of the big cities, where generally cash van is not available, or very remote places wherein then the SBI or the any other big bank account is being used to transfer the funds there. Okay, now cash transactions remaining unresponded in such kind of reconciliation, then you have to give detail wise of each transaction. Revenue items requiring adjustments or write-offs. Okay, so there are some revenue items which are pending in the reconciliation, which is not confirmed due to non-confirmation by either of the party, and after 3 years period passage is done, then you may need to write them off. Then such items have to be listed out here with their proper details. Credit debit card entries originated in the statement provided by RBI or other banks remaining unresponded for more than 15 days. Okay, so if the entries are remaining unresponded for beyond 15 days, then such entries will get listed here. Where the branch maintains an account with RBI, following additional matters may be reported. Entries originated prior to but communicated or recorded after year end in relation to currency chest operations, other linked branches involving deposits into or withdrawals from the currency chest attached to the branches given. Now, in all of these things, your general procedure will be that you will have to, of course, first do the verification of the reconciliation statement, find out what are the reasons for the differences. You will get the reference in the closing circular also what has to be done in case of any differences which prop up. Okay, and if differences are above the materiality threshold and require accounting in financial statements, then yeah, you can suggest an appropriate MOC. Now generally at a major level, this particular point would come as not applicable. As I said, this will be generally a very rare case, whether it is the your branches which are located either in the Mofussil areas or just outside the outskirts, or where they are having some other issues with your currency chest, or maybe it may not be feasible for like see a bank like SBI or a Bank of India or a Bank of Maharashtra in the state of Maharashtra, they have got a lot of branches. But alternatively, if you see a bank like say UCO Bank or a syndicate, so that is now a Canara Bank also to that extent. Okay, So they may not have those many branches in the interiors of the state of Maharashtra. So in such cases, it might be difficult for them to provide the cash balances through the currency chest separately designated for those regions. Okay, so in those cases, they may be using such branches with balances with the other accounts. Money at call and short, I think this has to be nil, because this is very much of a specialized function and generally won't come in the bank branch audit. Uh, anyone, okay, but just maybe very restricted to some investment sections of some of the big banks, okay. But I think typically this both money at call and investments both have been now been considered separately as a separate function and been done more of the at the central levels. For investments also in India, they have cancelled it for branches outside India. So if you are a lucky firm and more than that, you are a lucky article trainee that you get to go for a foreign branch audit, then this for branches outside India, these particular points you have to say. So there in the for foreign branches, generally what will happen, there will be either one or two of the branches in those particular countries, and for that very reason, you may have certain investment opportunities or investment functions being carried out at the done at the branch level also, because that branch itself may act as a regional center for that particular bank. Okay, so in those cases only you may find such options. If these purchase and sale of investments and everything has been considered for the branches outside India, then make sure they have been reported properly, specifically their purchase sales, the transactions, the income generation on that, and everything is being done properly. And the most important, like when we are holding deposits and when they get overdue and matured, we have to classify it as liability. Similarly, for our assets also, if they are getting overdue or matured, then we need to see why they are not being encashed as of now and have not been serviced. So before I move forward, anybody has any question till now? Yes. Assume no question. Okay, let me see the chat. Okay, no questions, sir. Okay, so let's go to the advances. Now, in case of advances, as I already mentioned, that the focus has been shifted now more to the process than on the other aspect. It doesn't mean that the other aspects of verification of advances or the asset quality have gone down. That is still in force. But if you see the LFR reporting, the focus is being shifted more so on the processes. Now, those who have been doing the statutory branch audits or who have seen the statutory branch audit reports till last year, you must have seen that invariably all the advances about 2%, 2 crores had to be audited. Okay. Now, this year, the selection criteria is 10% of the outstanding aggregate advances of fund and non-fund based, plus compare that with 10 crores. So out of the two, whichever is the lower amount, that becomes your threshold, and above the threshold, all the accounts have to be seamlessly without any restriction have to be verified and reported in the LFR. So here is an example. Advances of particular branch is 200 CR. Then as per the criteria given in revised LFR, or it is all accounts having outstanding in excess of 10 crores being lower than the advances in excess of 10% of aggregate advances, which comes to 20 crores. Like your comparison limit is one is 10 crore, the other one is 20 crore. Out of the two, the lower value is 10 crores. So beyond every advance which is having an outstanding which is beyond 10 crores, right from rupee 1 beyond 10 crore, has to be examined by the auditor in detail and reported. Okay, the critical comments based on the review of the above and other test checks should be given in the respective paras in the given. So this is the just the start where you are listing out the accounts which are examined, that is account number, name, year-end balance, whether it is funded and non-funded. So this comes your total accounts which you have verified. Out of that, then you take the total fund based and non-fund based figures of your branch from the balance sheet, and then you come to know the percentage by which. So this year, a specific calculation of percentage has to be given in your LFR. So substantial consideration. So when you're selecting your sample, make sure that there is a good ABC analysis also which has been done. Okay. Second, when you're selecting the sample, make sure the sample is a stratified sample. Yes, random samples do function, but then noting them down properly is very important. Maybe at first level, you can do the sample selection criteria wise by ABC analysis, and then within each category, when you want to take it that time, you can use it as a random sample. So accordingly, sorry, you can do those changes, but make sure that you can cover a substantial portfolio, and those accounts which are above that 20% or 10 cr, whichever is the lower this criteria, so they have to be invariably completed by the branch. So generally your audit procedure concerns here that process walkthrough, review a process vis-a-vis the process manual circulars from the head office. Today's day, you may not find all of these available in the file. Earlier, they used to have one of the file for all the your circulars and all the notifications, whatever are the internal instructions also. But today's day, you can they generally give you the access on their intranet. The intranet has got all the circulars which are in force, all the internal office instructions, so you can have a look at them. So when you're doing the process walkthrough, just review such processes, how it is happening. Data analysis, as I said, that most of the info in respect of accounts you can get it in Excel or CSV file or TXT file also. So you can request for all of them. I have seen people not cooperating also. At the same time, I've seen the bankers who have been cooperative also. So you can speak with them in as easier language as you can, and then accordingly you can ask for the data in the Excel and carry out your analysis. Okay. The illustrative criteria, like it can be used for say delay in submission of stock statements or overdue accounts which are regularized nearing the balance sheet date. Okay. Frequently overdrawn accounts, sample selection, sorry, based on the data analysis, auditors should select the samples. Now, when you are verifying the advances on such samples, then post selection of sample, you should verify the advances as explained in detail. So maybe you can take the guidance note as your guidance reference, or specifically since everybody is doing it, your firms will be having certain procedures. Now, one thing what you can do here when you are verifying the accounts, as a student, okay, we are very much new towards the functioning of the accounts, right? So say for example you are reviewing an account which is in entertainment industry. Okay. So first and foremost thing what I would say that in such cases certain things are available to you online, right? You need not even wait for the documentation to be received from the bank. Say if it is a private limited company or a limited company, you can simply go on ROC, take a search, go read through its memorandum and all, go read through its product life cycle. Maybe I know it, the time doesn't permit, but after your office hours are completed in the audit, take this extra efforts, go and learn about the industry, the modus operandi, how it actually functions, and whether the projections or the project report which they are given for acquiring certain such kind of loan, whether it is in sync with how the industry functions and how the annual report is actually being presented. So this may actually give you some insights about how to see whether the operations are effectively correct. Also, what I mean by effectively correct means at times only reporting is being done, the account is being well managed so that they are doing the money transfers at the time, or they are just saving their NPA formation date, but the actual operations may really not be up to the mark. And in such cases what happens in a later portion of time, the account turns to be NPA because the underlying performance which is required for that particular asset is actually lacking. Now this can be one of the subjective criteria also for internal or inherent weaknesses which you may observe in those accounts, but you need to substantiate them properly. So for this I would suggest that you take these extra efforts wherein you can study that industry, uh, and challenge the particular proposal on the basic quora or the basic quotient which you feel that yes, this is very basic for any industry. Like say for example, any industry like a cold drink industry, or maybe you say a cheese industry. Okay, so if somebody is in cheese products, then the food has to be stored in certain particular temperature only, right? Their procurement is also dependent on certain specific sets of your linkages. Okay, so in those cases you can see where the plant is located, how you can go through the stock auditor's report, you can check for his comments whether the storage is really up to the mark or not. You can read through the stock audit report or otherwise some news items and see whether there is any issues in any of the backward linkages. And if there are these issues, then it may hamper the production processes also tomorrow. So all these, so today the account might be very well correct, going on smooth, but there are these inherent limitations which are getting highlighted again and again. So you will need to have a clear look on these particular items. In credit appraisal also, I would suggest that the only change, the point is not been changed here, but what they have brought in is, in your opinion, or what in your opinion are the major shortcomings in the credit appraisals and etc. So as I said, the focus of LFAR is getting shifted to the proposals, the procedures which are being followed, okay, the internal robustness, internal systems, verification of the internal systems, how robust they are, and any shortcomings which you find out has to be clearly jotted down here. So just make sure that you also go through the credit policy and delegation of power, because at times what happens, at the end of the day or end of the year, when the renewals are pending or they are short of targets, it may does happen that they simply do the renewals without the proper delegation of power. When the question of ratification comes, ratification is also sometimes done by the immediate next level and not at the actual level. Like when you say actual level, like say there is a branch level, apart from that there may be a regional level or the circle level or a zonal level. Apart from that, there are certain credit approval committees depending upon branch, and that also are categorized into the small or micro segment, the medium segment, and a large segment. Okay, so wherever your loan falls, if it is of 50 cr, it will go in the medium segment. If it is of just say 10-12 cr, it will go in the small segment. Or otherwise it may be simply a nowadays housing loans are also done specifically, but you can say a pension loan or a loan against FD or a loan against salary, okay, or rent receivables. These might be getting sanctioned only at the branch level only. So you may have to check the delegation of power properly and whether that power is coming from the credit policy also. So if it is there, then no need to worry. You can still put it as a audit documentation and all. If not, then accordingly you need to put the documentation, and on the basis of your evidence, you can come to certain conclusions. So have you come across cases of quick mortality in accounts where the facilities become non-performing within a period of 12 months from the date of first sanction? What do we mean by quick mortality? Anybody? What do we mean by quick mortality?
Service become NPA before 12 months.
Okay. So why these accounts need to be checked very in detail, or what is the what is the reason why specific attention has to be paid to such kind of accounts?
Chances of involvement of management in that, probably.
Yes. So basically, as I said, see, we are focusing here more on the review processes, right? How robust are the internal system? Now, whenever loan has to be given, it has to pass to certain processes, and generally, barring as I said, your FD loans or the security back like your LIC and all, or the gold back loans, no loan is processed and approved by one single officer. It goes through multiple levels. Maybe the proposal has been done at the branch level, but then it goes to the region or maybe even the higher level at the credit approval committees. Okay. Now, even after following so many procedures, there is chance that the chance that there was collusion is very less. So if there is no collusion, assuming it for one point of point, so even if there is no collusion, and account still becomes NPA. That is, it becomes mortal immediately. It is not even staying for one particular year. That means there is some serious lapse which has to be verified in your credit rating or credit appraisal. Okay, and that is the reason you need to verify and find out what kind of lapse which would have come out. So that is the reason, if there are quick mortality accounts, you may, at least at the base level, what you have said is correct, within 12 months if it is there, okay, of the first disbursement of the limits. Okay, so if it is become quick mortal, then in those cases you can simply check out why the reason is, or if you are not able to get the reason, then at least lease down these accounts. Now, second question here, in the current scenario, current year, uh, are you going to take the quick mortality seriously or not? I'm telling specifically for this audit year 2020-21, being a COVID year, wherein till August already the interest had been postponed by various circulars of RBI, and then later on there was the interim relief by Supreme Court, and then the relief had been duly withdrawn also. So in such scenario, what will you consider? Anyone? Yes, or a humanitarian approach this year for quick mortality? No humanitarian approach? You can write in chat also.
Sir, moratorium was till September only. No, if it is becoming overdue after September, then we need to put it as NPA, I think.
Right. See, question is not of NPA. Anyways, after that Supreme Court having withdrawn the earlier order,
Yeah, in
okay,
the month of March.
now you have to follow the IRAC norms which are in force, okay, for
Right.
the
Right.
classification.
Hmm.
Question is whether your account is becoming quick mortal in this period,
Hmm.
okay, whether
Hmm.
your account is becoming quick mortal in this particular period. If it is happening, then you have to still give it. Now this year there might be exceptional situations which you can apparently see because of the COVID which are happening, so maybe they will consider it also. But as I said, LFER or any of the bank branch audit is purely based on the objective criteria and not subjective. So you are not the person to take what is the subjective decision here. Our job is to list out all our observations which you can objectively point out. Listing out these observations objectively does not mean that you are qualifying something or you are making sure that anything is getting misreported. Okay, if you have a evidence wherein you can very clearly see that the account as per the definition is becoming quick mortal, then you have to simply report it. If you know the reason why it has happened, then you can write down the reasons, not for taking the sides of the borrower, but reasons which you can apparently see, and you can inform the management this is how you have to follow the procedure, why this particular series of transactions we have found out, which is showing that the particular account was being either misused for siphoning of the funds, or there were diversion of funds, or maybe the sales range which were projected in the project report and actual sales which were taking place, there was a huge difference in that. So all these points you can highlight as your observations, but otherwise, even if you don't have those particular points on a very basic and firm criteria, that if you find any account which has become quick mortal, you have to simply report it in this particular point. Now, whether the borrower accounts the applicable rate is correctly fed in. So again, nowadays, if you see, they don't even keep this bank rate plus X or plus Y or plus or minus. Today's days, all these interest rates are centrally. So only at the time when you are opening the account, you have to make sure that a correct product code is being selected. Say product code is ABC vehicles. Okay, assume it for all the vehicles which are above say 20 lakh rupees. Okay, now when you say selecting ABC vehicles which is about 20 lakh rupees, your interest rate will automatically come. Whenever the rates are changed centrally, it will get shifted here. Similarly, in housing also, affordable housing may have a different rate, the premium housing may have a different rate. Okay, so banks may have this depending upon their product codes. Product codes may even depend upon the ratings of the client. Your either it is your CRISIL rating or your CIBIL ratings. Also, in case of the individual and other clients. So whatever product code is fed in, the rate has been captured. Now, generally, bank will tell everything is there on product code basis, then what you want to check. But in such cases, also you may take one or two accounts on the sample basis, check whether the interest application is being done correctly, because it may so happen that in the guise of something system is taking care, small flagging, every account, or when they make the customer masters, there are different flags for yes, no, applicable, not applicable have to be given. But while saving the account, might have been certain mistake which may undertake while opening of the account, and that may lead to, even though it's a correct product code, some additional discount or concession might have been thrown out in this particular account, so that you can always see. Okay, so examine the sanction letter for the correct code and rate of interest, and if there is any concession in rate of interest specifically approved by the competent, then whether that approval is valid for one particular year till the next renewal, or that is in general which has to be carried out sine die. So this is also one of the issue, because when the renewal takes place specifically, not every point which was a part of the previous proposal is being carried forward, so concession may still remain there and there itself in the system. Okay, so in such cases you need to go and check whether any concessions were given, they have been applied in the system but later on not renewed, so they need to be removed from the system. So make sure you have a look at this particular aspect as well. Whether interest is reviewed periodically as per the guidelines, so I think this should be yes. There is no issue for this particular point, because the interest rate is anytime linked to the MCLR only. Now, have you come across cases of frequent renewal or rollover of short-term loans? If yes, give the details. Yes. How can, or what can we say about this particular point? Anybody? Frequent renewals. What is the issue with frequent renewals? Yes. Okay, how many times renewal is allowed? Okay, next question. How many times short renew or short review is allowed? Short renewal or short review is allowed? Yes. Nobody? Come on, you can try, na? Even if it is wrong, no issues. Yes. No one? Okay. So see, when you refer to the RBI Master Circular for IRAC norms, okay, then there is one criteria which is a which is termed as a temporary deficiency, that is not getting your account renewed or reviewed within the due date. Okay, so generally the working capital account becomes due either at the end of 1 year, or maybe sometimes depending upon very excellent external ratings criteria, then maybe 18 months. Now, why these accounts have to be renewed? Because bank is giving you the loan at one time, but whether it has been actually and effectively used for that, has been used for that particular purpose, has to be verified, and that is the reason you need to get your accounts renewed. Now, if you are not getting your accounts renewed, then your accounts DP is automatically shunted to zero, and the moment it becomes zero, the overdue starts the next day. Okay, so to avoid all these things, the branches without sufficient documentation. Now, RBI said that when you are getting the accounts renewed, the renewal should be based on your audited balance sheets only. So what happens, in the month of say July, August, or maybe even sometimes September, October also, when we are getting the renewals done, the balance sheets are not available. Now, July, August, still you can understand. हाँ, for private limited companies also, people say date extend हुआ है तो अभी balance sheet नहीं दे सकते हैं. Now this is so illogical when everybody knows that when you are doing or completing your company's law, your AGM is been held in time. Nobody is taking any permission to extend the AGM. Okay, but when time comes to submit the details to the bank, depending upon your tax audit or the your transfer pricing audit, you say my date is still extended, so my accounts are yet to be finalized. Now, such things shouldn't be correct. Now, if by chance they are doing a short review, that is a review which has been done or a renewal which has been done for a period which is less than one complete term of that 1 year or 1.5 year, plus it is been done because of the want of certain documents. Okay, once the documents are received there, so generally what happen whenever it happens in July or August, they push it forward for 3 months or so, so that accordingly within 3 months, once the balance sheet is ready, all the documentation, that is the audited annual accounts and other requisite details, can be considered for the purpose of renewal. But what happens that 3 months has can still further be extended up to 180 days. Okay, now when you can extend it up to 180 days, the the banks, they generally neglect or they keep on doing it on 181st day, 200 day, and so on. At times, renewal has not been done. So simply they will renew at the branch. For them, it is done. If they feel ratification, they will go to the immediate next box. That is the regional manager, who is also bogged with the target. So he will also get the ratification done. But actual ratification at times needs to be done by your credit approval committee. So you have to check whether that approval is been done correctly. If not, then you need to report out wherever there you find out that there are frequent renewals or rollover of short-term loans. Okay, so that means one loan is being used to set up the next loan, or there are frequent renewals, means actually they are not able, the borrower is not able to substantiate its base for the uh, drawing of the working capital limits. Okay, now to the next point, whether correct and valid credit rating, if available, of the credit from RBI accredited has been fed into the system. So this is very simple thing in your account master inquiry, whatever it is there, depending upon the software which is being used, whether it is the Finacle or the Oracle or FlexCube by any of the company, any of the bank, you need to go and check out whether the ratings have been fed in correctly. If not, then simply list down those items. Now, coming to sanctioning and disbursement, these points are quite common in the sense they are not brought in by as a new points. So I'll just brush up through them. Okay, so here the one drastic change which is being seen here is in the language. Like, they're using the terms now in the cases examined by you. Okay, so that means the onus has been now shifted on the auditor. You cannot now simply write that whether you're, so whatever sample you're selecting above, but in those cases also you cannot give a generic answer. Your answers has to become very very specific for whatever sample you're selecting. Okay, so if you have found anything which is beyond the delegated power, okay, you need to report here. Okay, whatever is the excess, if there is a excess, then ratification by the concerned authority has to also be checked in. Whether advances has been dispersed without complying with the terms. So we all know that there are pre-disbursement conditions to be fulfilled, there are post-disbursement conditions which are to be fulfilled. Okay, there are post-sanction conditions which are to be fulfilled. So at every stage, and specifically in cases of the builder accounts, we will find out that at every stage there is a release of fund. So they have to get certain requirements, like your the architect certificate is there, your engineer certificate is there. Yeah, today's day, in case of RERA compliance, whether the utilization of that previous money which was given has been done or not. So all these certificates which are being listed down in your sanction letter have to be seen whether they have been complied with invariably. There is no ifs and buts for that. So these points you can take. Did the bank provide loan to company for buyback? Now you all know that buyback is not allowed through borrowed capital. I'm sorry. Okay, so it is prohibited by RBI also, as well as in the Companies Act. Then in case of documentations, have you come across instances of credit facilities by branch without execution of all the necessary documents? Okay, like name of borrower, account number, type of facility, sanctioning authority, limit. Okay, so in this case you can always document all of this wherever the execution of documents. The execution of documents means whether it is a mortgage deal in case if it is required, in case of your vehicle loan, if there is no surcharge, or if the original tax invoice has not been taken, or the insurances are not there. So whatever are the credit which are been released without execution of all the necessary document, the loan agreement, the promissory notes, okay, and majorly the loan agreements are getting executed with the requisite stamp value, okay, and the mortgage deals are such which get executed on the requisite stamp value. So make sure whether the execution is correct. Now if you find deficiencies in documentation or non-registration of charges or non-obtaining of guarantees and so, then such all these accounts have to be listed out here. Specifically, see, like documentations, when you're checking, check also for the AODs, acknowledgements which are getting overdue. So generally some banks, they have this reporting format in their concurrent audit, that documents which are 30 months old or 33 months old, so that before 3 years are getting completed, and if those accounts are under the renewal processes, then a fresh documentation set has to be issued for them. Okay, if in case there is a inadequate stamping which has been done, then additional stamp paper or stamp duty has to be taken, and that has to be applied. And make sure, because see, a defective document will anyways keep reduce the rights of the borrow sorry, of the bank itself in the longer run. Okay, non-registration of charges, non-obtaining of guarantees, time bar documents. So these are certain points which you can refer here. Then advances against lien of deposits. Okay, now you have to make sure that a lien marking is been done physically also. At times it is, they will always tell you that it is there in the system. So where the issue comes, the issue generally comes when the lien document or the document which is under lien gets renewed. That is whether it is your FD receipt or anything else. When it is renewed, at they make a fresh FD with the accrued amount also, and then it is being charged on lien on the system. But if there is no discharge at all, okay, or at times you'll find that the customer doesn't come back to the branch, so the discharge is not happening on those particular FDs. So make sure you are just asking them that the lien marking is to be done physically also, as well as in the CBS. CBS is very important, because tomorrow if anybody comes with a fake copy or has by some or the other reason been able to take back the original, and if there is no lien marking in the system, then such person can easily withdraw the amounts before the control of the banks. So make sure, again I'm repeating, you are making this particular report as a comment on your internal processes. So how robust are your processes, that has to get highlighted here very very explicitly. Review, monitoring and supervision. So this criteria has been changed now. This is to 3 to 6 months and over 6 months. Earlier it was, I guess, 6 months and then 6 to 1 year accordingly. Okay. Stock or book date statements and other periodic operational data and finances are received regularly from borrowers and duly scrutinized. Can anybody tell me what does the term duly scrutinized mean? Anyone? Yes? Nobody? We have around 40 participants here. How do you verify this? This is one of the area which is generally been given to the article trainees also, that you have to verify the stock and book date statement. How many of you like FM as a paper? Is there any other way? I can see people want to speak, or nobody wants to speak. Yes. Stock and book. Acha, if even if you're not done the bank audit, can anybody tell what do you understand by the term stock and book date statement? Yes. What do we understand by stock and book date statement? And why is it so important? Yes, Ramesh, a proper renewal has to happen within 180 days. Now, for that 180 days, I'll just like to share one more thing. See, even if it happens beyond 180 days, okay, but if it is done before 31st of March, then that temporary deficiency is considered to have been rectified. The only issue which comes for which majority of the bankers don't accept is that, say for example, because say that 180 days gets crossed in the month of December, so technically that account becomes NPA. The moment it becomes NPA, all the unrealized interest portion has to be reversed out of that. And in CCOD accounts, we generally find that if there is no sufficient credit later on, then that amount remains unutilized. Second, when you have to get upgraded out of that, that is when your temporary deficiency is getting out. But once you are a NPA, then what you have to do is the another criteria is that you have to pay back the amounts completely. Okay, so here comes the issue, and that is the reason for accounts which become renewed after 180. Banks generally do not accept anything from the auditor that they were ever had become NPA. They say it was a temporary deficiency and it has been sorted out. So you can always stick to the objective criteria and tell it. But of course, this is your partner's call how they are going to take this forward. Coming back again to the stock and book date statements. Anyone, come on, as a try also. Logic, where what you want to do in the logic? What logical application you want to do? Let me see. There is one chat here, I think. Okay. A statement showing periodic data of stock maintained like opening balance, stock consumed, and closing. Similar is case for the book date statements. Okay. How is it useful to you? How is this useful to you? So why we call for stock and book date statements? Because these are the accounts, generally your working capital accounts, for which the primary security, which is either hypothecated to the bank, is your stocks or the book dates, right? So it is the duty of the bankers to keep a close watch that the primary security which is being charged to the bank is being correct, right? There are no bogus figures which are being given, because that is the value against which you are paying them the giving them the loan. Okay, now what happens, in the stock and book date statements, one very simple thing, like say for example, as I said, this is a working capital limit. Okay, so you derive your DP, that is the drawing power, on the basis of these, but there is always a margin which is being kept here. The margin is kept for the reason that tomorrow, if by any chance the borrower becomes defaulted, then it is not the primary business of the bank to go on the streets and sell those particular products, or go and sit in his shop and sell those products. Okay, or maybe even if it is the debtor, go and bargain with those debtors. So they generally keep a very high margin, say 25% or 30% for the stocks, and around 40% for the debtors, wherein at whatever value you get it, you get the things realized as fast as possible, take your money back from that realization. If any excess is there, give it back to the borrower and come back to your core business, that is banking. Okay, now to have such a secured thing, one part is your insurance, but second part, when the default, insurance will be fruitful only on the happening of the insured event. Okay, but defaulting by the borrower is not happening of a insured event. So in this case, you need to have the valuation which is correct. So at times what happens, the bankers, they really do not scrutinize the statements properly. So what do you mean by scrutiny? You get the statement. The statement might be a simple statement. This is stock. This is there. No breakup. Nothing is provided. The stocks might contain certain stocks which are obsolete stock, or which are your non-moving stock. So obsolete means they really do not get any value in the market, or non-moving means there is a product life cycle for that, or there is a demand, but the demand is very slow, right? So now if you want to get the money rolling within the next 90 days, then you need to have the items also which are easily sellable, because if an item is very slowly sellable, slow moving, or there is a stock which is containing, which is a lot of obsolete stock, then there will be issues with the bankers for further realization whenever it happens. That is the reason they have to go through this statement scrutiny very well when they are doing it at the initial stage only. You may find that the bankers generally neglect in this particular aspect, and they simply miss out on the proper scrutiny. They at times even don't look at the your, what do you say, the stock audit reports also, what comments are being given, logical reasoning. Okay, the movement tracing is not been done, or the stock items also may not be all items which are actually supposed to be stock. So at times when the statements are submitted, fixed asset items might be shown as stock in the end of the year when the books are audited. Okay, fixed assets are being classified as fixed assets, and the stocks are being shown as a very meager number. In fact, the new caro will actually start reporting whether there is a clear cut difference between the stock statement which has been submitted to the bank for month of March, and the stock which has been disclosed or by the auditor, or which has been disclosed by the borrower as per the audited figures. Okay, so these points have to be kept in mind when you're doing. Then of course, if the base is correct, then your second question is whether the DP is computed correctly, that is whether the creditors are being reduced or not. Now some banks do not have the policy of reducing the creditors, that free hand is given to them, because what they are saying is ultimately creditors also form part of the working capital, and you get it as a working cap, you are providing this as a working capital limit. But typically when you speak creditors or the stock for which you are already getting credit, that means you are already borrowing that stock on certain limit. You have not paid those creditors from your working capital limit, right? So had you paid them, then the matter would have been different. So already somebody else has financed you. So somebody's indirect charge, I'm not saying a direct charge, but indirect charge on your goods is already there. If you're not paying back, maybe at times your contract may say that he is in a situation, or he is empowered to take back the goods, right? So in such cases, the bank will lose out on his rights, and that is the reason your creditors have to be reduced when you are doing your classifications or the working of your drawing powers. Now, this reduction has to be done prior to application of your margin. Second, in case of debtors or WIP, okay, specifically in case of WIP, there is a lot of elements of the goods as well as labor which is going in. But WIPs at the bank level are generally be shown at the with profit level, and that is the contract value, because contract values generally include your profit elements also, which is again not a very correct approach, because see, when you say the question of realizability, the realizable, it is the net realizable value, right? And net realizable value should not contain your profit element. So these are very minute points which you need to take care or give your attention to when you're verifying the stock and book date statements. You can apply your various ratios also. So this is one of the area where a lot of your FM concepts will get revised also. A lot of your FM concepts will get clarity of thought also. So just make sure that you apply all these things here when you are reviewing your books of sorry, the borrower's proposals, and then you may give your certain notes here. Now, whether the latest audited financials are obtained for accounts reviewed or renewed, as I said, now earlier it was not there, but now it's a very specific question. So you need to see whether the renewal, it in short implies that whether the renewal has been undertaken only on the basis of the audited financial statements. Okay. Now, if you have received it late also, this can be one of the area of revenue, because there is a time limit generally prescribed in all the sanction notes for the renewal of the audited financial statements. Sorry, the submission of audited financial statements. Okay, so any late submissions either here or for the stock and book date, there are generally penalties which are prescribed and which are generally not levied also by the system. So you can always check and check these cases and find out why they are not been shown. Okay, check sample cases with advance on action taken on stock statements. Is it verification or mere feeding? Because when you say DP is properly computed, so it doesn't mean whatever the borrower has given, you're simply putting it back in the system. Where they are actually applying their mind, verifying those figures, getting the totals done. Okay, and on the basis of verification, they are putting it in the system. Okay. So again, this is another area of a revenue leakage, because if it crosses the DP, then of course the overdue interest and other applications will come into picture. Whether there exists a system of obtaining reports on stock audits periodically. Okay, so you will have to see on the basis of the criteria. Bank to bank, there are different criteria. These criteria depend upon the risk assessment of the bank. Okay, and of course there are RBI prescribed guidelines also, so you can have a look. A bank may do it beyond 10 crores, B bank may do it beyond 50 crores also. So it's majorly, the differentiation is majorly dependent upon the external credit criteria. But in case your branch is, you can see that there are a stock audit which has been undertaken, then just have a look at it properly, so that you can always give some good comments from the stock auditors. Specifically, if there are any adverse remarks, then yes, you have to check it. And generally the stock audits will also have an action taken report. Okay, what are the borrowers action for the responses, or what are the borrowers responses for all the queries and observations raised by the auditor. Okay, and then I'll skip this point. The next one: does the branch have on its record a due diligence report in form and manner required by RBI? uh, in respect of advances under consortium and multi, give list of accounts where such certificate or report is not available. So you know that in case of consortium accounts or multiple banking accounts, then RBI may ask for a due diligence report. Okay, so if it is been prescribed, you can simply refer to your sanction letter. If it is been prescribed and not available on record, then you can just report it in this particular format. Inspection of physical security charged to the bank has been carried out by the branch. So just see whether there are merely visit reports, or apart from the visit reports also, they have actually. So the comments which have been given by the concerned officers will let you know that whether the visit has actually been taken out effectively or not. Okay, you can counter question them. You can speak with the you can speak with the inspection officer and see whether such things were considered properly. Okay, second, whether the visit charges are taken. Now at times what happens, they simply do they simply take the registration, they simply take the visit charges in the account and finish the visit report on basis of the stock statements only which are given. So make sure that you have a proper verification of these aspects also. One example, now you all being in Mumbai, I can give one example. There are certain industrial belts in Vasai, there are certain industrial belts in say Bhiwandi, and there are certain industrial belts in Panvel. So what you may find, one particular day, say today is 5th of April. On 5th of April, that officer has visited a unit in Bhiwandi. He has visited a unit in Vasai also, and he has visited that unit in Panvel also. Now, is it practically possible to visit? And even if you're going by car, you are simply going and seeing whether that visit is means visit is happening at that premises or not. What about the actual verification? We all know that so many things are there, processes are need to be checked, right? It is not simply possible to do so much of verification on one single day, right? Even you may do partial visits on one single day, but then there has to be a second additional part which has to be done, right? The additional check or the additional visit has to be there. So all these are lacking, and still you find out that the visit reports are completed. So make sure these points have been highlighted correctly, and the inspection of physical verification of securities is been done out properly. Okay, in respect of advances examined by you, deficiencies in the value of securities and inspection thereof. So yes, why this is important? Because deficient values of security, specifically when they turn out to be a substandard asset and the underlying security value is diminished, then your provisioning increases. And if it turns out to be loss, then the if it turns out to be loss totally, that is value is diminished completely, then you will have to classify it as a loss asset and then accordingly increase your provisioning. Okay, so you can note down all the deficiencies. Insurance also, have a look at it very properly, because I'll not go in detail, but all of you must have learned your insurance in your insurance chapter, and you know that there is a average clause which is being applied, and always what happens that the borrower generally gets his goods insured only to the extent of the limit. Say for example, my limit is 25 cr, I will insurance my stock only up to 25 cr. Now what happens, that 25 cr or that dp comes on after a certain margin. See, assuming my actual goods which are required to be kept is 30 cr with 5 cr margin, and so my dp comes to 25. Now what will happen, I am holding actually goods of 30 cr, my dp is of 25, my insurance is of 20. Tomorrow in case of mishap, I will get a proportionate 25 upon 30, whatever the ratio applies, that is the ratio in which I am going to get the insurance claim back. That means that is a straight away loss to the bank in case the borrower is not in a position to stand on his own. To make sure that insurance policies are very much adequate, they are covering all the risks which should be covered for that particular loan, and they are have been done with the proper bank clause. In case of frauds, okay, now whether the branch has any red flag accounts, if yes, whether deviations were observed related to compliance of banks policies related with the red flag accounts. Okay, so you can refer to this RBI master circular for frauds classification also. You can ask them for the fraud register, they will always say there is one or not, and so many things. But make sure that you always ask them for what has happened for this red flag account, and what are the reasons why that particular account has been red flagged. So generally red flagging is been generally done on the basis of the suspicious transactions report which are generated, and there is a separate cell at the back end of all the branches or the banks which sends them the links and asks them why certain accounts have to be getting red flag. Okay, so just identify the reasons for this. If not, then you can just simply refer to this circular once, and if you come across any of the activities which are in line with this circular, then you can ask the bank why the classification under red flagging, or why the bank has not made any of these accounts as a red flag account. Adverse comment features considered significant in top 5 standard large which needs so you can list down only if it needs management attendance, else you can simply skip this particular thing. Asset classification and provisioning of advances resolution. So has the branch identified and classified assets into standard and substandard, whatever it is there? Is identification in line with the norms prescribed? Okay, whether branch is following system of classifying accounts in SMA 0, 1, 2, whether auditor disagrees with the branch classification. Okay, also indicate. So now see, anyways, when the question of IRAC classification is concerned, the classification of asset, whether it has a standard asset or a substandard asset, okay, as a non-performing asset, and then within that also, or prior to that also, if there are differences in classification. Now when you're saying whether you're following the system of SMA 0, 1, 2, 3, and whether you disagree with this, so your disagreement will come only and only on the basis of objective criteria which is laid down for under the IRAC circulars. Second, that should also pinpoint to the systems, like why that particular account, say it has supposed to be classified as SMA 1 or 2, but it has been classified as SMA 0. So this is very much a system lapse unless there is a specific permission which has been given for this particular point. Okay, so either this one or your identification. Okay, these are through computer systems without any manual intervention. Okay, and for this particular thing, as a process, you can always say check through the system log, and in the system log also, when that particular account is made NPA, transferring it from the manual, that is a performing asset, to the non-performing asset, when it is done by the system log, okay, you will find that the maker and the checker, both of the IDs are that of the computer IDs and not of any person who is physically present at the branch level or the regional level. So you can always check who is the maker checker and verify whose IDs are those. So that list also you get from the branch. Okay, and any deviation here generally leads to a MOC, because that is straight away affecting your income also as well as the classification also. List of accounts with outstanding in excess of 10 crore which have either been downgraded or upgraded with regard to the classification. Okay, so as above we saw 10 crores and above is the criteria for the accounts based selection. Apart from that, you should, it's not only you should have additional samples which are also selected. But this, whether if it is a downgrading from performing to non-performing or upgrading from non-performing to performing, has to also be specifically listed down here. Okay, whether RBI guidelines on IRAC has been followed, then this is a very specific question, and you have to give your answer in yes, no, and if not, then you will have to list down wherever you have observed that it has not been followed. Okay, so it cannot be a very general. So even if you are saying no, it has to be very specific. Maybe cannot be the answer in such criteria. Whether branch has reported accounts restructured or rephased during the year to the controlling authority of the bank. Okay, so these are the controlling returns which are being filed. So those you can check and verify whether the reporting is been done in time, as well as it is been acknowledged at the other level also. Whether RBI guidelines for restructuring have been followed. So again, you will have to follow the master direction in this case. Whether the branch complies with regular stance for resolution of stressed asset, including compliance with board approved policies in this regard, tracking, reporting of defaults for resolution purposes, among others. Okay, then so in this case, you can maybe refer to the appendix 11 of guidance notes specifically for COVID-19 situations. Okay, for any stressed assets for this particular period. So as we were discussing, you can just go through these policies, or maybe any internal policies and circulars have been brought out. So you may verify those. Whether upgradation in non-performing is in line with the norms of RBI, as I said, in lines with the first basic criteria, that all whatever interest and principal which are overdue has to be recovered in full. That is at 100% level. So this sometimes doesn't happen in case of upgradation of accounts, specifically of those which are becoming due to temporary deficiencies or one-time deficiency of, say, your CC account crossing three interest not getting served for three periods or 90 days beyond they are overdue. Okay, so in all these cases you will have to make sure that whether the guidelines and the upgradation processing has been done correctly, effectively as per the IRAC norms. If not, then necessary correlation with AMOC will be required. Have you come across cases where the relevant controlling authority of the bank has authorized legal action for recovery of advances or recalling, but no such action? So you you will come to know in case of a file that the recallment of that account has been done. Okay, and action has to be initiated by the branch. Generally these actions are initiated by the legal teams, but in certain cases they either the valuation might be very meager, or in cases of accounts wherein they are again in the areas which are wherein it is not feasible for the legal department to. So in such cases they direct the branches to initiate the legal action. So you have to verify whether such actions have been taken timely. Whether there are any accounts wherein the process under IBC is mandated but not initiated. Again, I personally feel that this might not happen from the branch level without the complete advisory from the legal department. Okay, because not everybody at the branch level is well equipped to start or initiate such processes. But if any guidelines have been given by any internal instructions, okay, so in those cases you will have to make sure that all of them are being followed properly. Then as far as the ECGC claims are concerned, this is again a common previous year's point only. So I will not go much into details. You can have a look at the guidance note. The next one also is a previous year point. NPA has the branch obtained valuation. Valuations beyond certain points have not to be considered old valuation. So every bank has its criteria. May have a look at it. Generally 3 years, at times 5 years is also given. Then for that NPAs which are beyond 5 crores, again then mandatory valuation is required for annual stock. Okay, So just make sure these compliances are being done with properly. Is the branch prompt in ensuring execution of decrees obtained for recovery from defaulting borrowers? Give age-wise analysis of decrees obtaining. Okay, so your credit audit report will give you more insights into this, and accordingly you can list down all the decrees which have been obtained and which are pending execution. So in age-wise format, you can mention it here. Whether the case is concluded, the recoveries have been properly appropriated against principal or interest as per the policy of the bank. Okay, so of course the first appropriation has to be in line or in sync with your the bank's policy. Okay, so in case of recoveries, so for upgradations also you have to first do your interest recoveries as well as the principal, and only when both of these which were overdue till that date they are getting completed, then only your upgradation of the account will be said to be completed. In cases where documents are held at centralized processing centers, CPCs, or offices with the auditor, I'm sorry, where the auditors has received the relevant documents as asked by them on test day and satisfied. So you may find out that there are the centralized processing centers, or there are some SME branches wherein the accounts are held or parked at your branch, but the management and everything is done by the relationship manager from that SME branch. Okay, or maybe some flagship branches, whichever they call it. Okay, so in those cases you have to make sure that you can ask for the visits for those particular branches, go through all the documentation, check whether everything is correct or not, and if that is not the case, then you will have to report it here, whatever discrepancies you are finding out, whether it is in the documentation, whether it is in the process, whether it is in the follow-up, whether it is in the overall maintenance of the account. Okay, you have to list down the major defense, credit reviews, monitoring, and supervision. As far as non-fund based are concerned, list of borrowers with details of, sorry, list of borrowers with details of LCs devolved or guarantees invoked during the year. You have to give it. So maybe in this fashion: serial number, invocation date, beneficiary name, and recovery if you have done. Then list of borrowers with LC has been devolved or guarantees has been invoked but not paid. So this has to be very specific that post invocation also you are not paying, because see, ultimately in today's date LCs are and guarantees are backed by your collateral of the FDs. Even if it is against goods, then it becomes part of your sub limit of your working capital limit. Okay, so in these cases, if anything is invoked and you are still not paying, means you must have got some specific instructions from the borrower which are legally valid. Okay, in these cases you will have to check the laid down process by the bank. In case of guarantees, maybe it may happen that the original guarantee document was not received, that is why you are not paying. So these are all fair answers, but make sure that there is no process lapse in this particular aspect of devolvement and guarantees. As I said, that LCs might get discharged by the sublimit in the CC account, but at the same time, you will have to also see that whenever LC gets devolved and debited to the CC account with no adequate balance, then CC account will turn out to be overdrawn. So such overdrawing should again not continue beyond the 90 days, because if it is been done in that particular fashion, then you are losing, then you are risking out your other asset to be a non-performing asset. So very connected criteria, but you need to have a look at this particular aspect as well. Other assets, suspense accounts and sundry accounts. This is the same point which has been given. Nothing much to say. Just I would say just verify it on text check, because generally you will find the issues with certain rent agreements either with the branch managers who are outstation managers and for them it is being paid, or for the branch itself, or for the ATM and all. So just have a look at the agreements and all. Suspense entry becomes one of the major entries for the purpose of fraud, because nobody looks at him, so they can be used to manipulate or siphon off funds, or temporarily use them and putting them back again in the parking account. So use a proper audit trail whether such accounts had any suspicious movements during the year. Okay, if you have observed them, then your next stage should go and check what were the other internal which have stopped these movements, or which wherein you can find out there is a lacuna in the system because of which these accounts can be actually used during the year and then settled off to its original base value at the end of the year. Okay, unreconciled items might be also such that they may require a MOC. Okay, so these reasons you will have to find out. Does your test check indicate any unusual item in these accounts? If so, then report their nature. So you can report it here. Liabilities, deposits, identification. This the more focus is on the AML. So this is a very common thing which everybody does, that there are no to find out whether there are any unusual large movements specifically at the end of the year for the purpose of say window dressing and all. So you can check the deposits on 31st March, that is the date of audit, and say compare it with say 5th of April or 6th of April, and just see whether there is a huge movement in the deposit. So if you find a substantial reduction, specifically a reduction in the deposit, then you can observe that they might be a process of the window dressing. That is, the deposits are getting netted off. At the same time, loan against deposit is also getting netted off. So these becomes really clear cut cases of the window dressing also. So have a look at the movements also. This unusual large movement, just by simply writing there are no unusual large movement, might not be correct. So you plot it on the graph and give your reasoning. Huh? So maybe if you really find that the movement was really 0.1% or 1%, if it is in the acceptable range, okay, then you can write down accordingly that the movements were in the acceptable range, and those seem to be not there doesn't seem to be any unusual movement. So the answer should be again conclusive and very specific. Scheme of automatic renewal of deposit applies to FCNRB also, and whether such deposits have been renewed, report whether the branches says that the non-resident status of the depositor is same. Like the non-residents, when they go out of the country, they make sure they update their status. But at times when they come back to India, they still remain non-resident, or they become they become resident. They forget to update this particular criteria. So in such cases, if any FCNRB deposits are being held and they have been given the option of auto renewal, then at least this criteria of whether that the depositor is still a non-resident or not has to be verified thoroughly. Okay, is the branch complying with the regulations on minimum balance requirement and levy of charges of non-maintenance? So this is a new addition. I don't know why they are asking this, but maybe this is one of the reasons why there have been a lot of RTIs off late, wherein how much the bank is earning in the minimum balance charges. So maybe in those particular cases, RBI really wants to have a look at this particular aspect, that whether there are levy of charges. Second, post non-maintenance also, they may come to some conclusions how well, these charges of non-maintenance or anything else, what is the basic level of what you can say service which has been provided by the branches. Okay, so that might be the reason for them to go and ask this particular account. Other liabilities, again, now this, I think this was 3 years, it has been made 1 year, otherwise there is no change. Again, this is similar to your suspense accounts and all deposit and administrative unit accounts. Contingent liabilities, you may check whether there are any contingent liabilities which are acknowledged by the branch. So guarantee generally you report it properly, but say there was a case study of rent wherein there has I can give an example. Say suppose today's day your branch premises rent is say 1 lakh. Okay, it is due for renewal. Post renewal, in the previous agreement it was agreed that there has to be 5% increase every year. Okay, and beyond the renewal process also, that will be subjected to certain base valuation, but 5% will be there. Now when I know that this is my third year, it is 1 lakh. Okay, after that my renewal is pending for some other point. Now if I know that I am going to increase my rent by 5%, that is 1 lakh to 1 lakh 5. Okay, the landlord, okay, the owner of the property, he is going to demand me the fresh 1 lakh 20. Okay, now I know that is minimum what I am going to pay is 105, right? Subject to whatever our court case is going on. So in such situation, at least that 5 crore is which I know I will be virtually liable to pay in case I do not win the case. Then that does become my contingent liability. The balance 15,000, sorry, which is again dependent on certain events, but there is no assurity for it. But for that 5,000 rupees on 1 lakh additional, I have already committed. The question is whether I should book it as liability or not. This question may arise because, say, in case of the court case, they might have informed you that if you win, you can say come back again to the base price of, say, 1 lakh. Say this was a typical case in case of your COVID. Okay, now banks were functioning, so this might not happen. But if they are having some areas where their ATM is not functioning properly, or ATM needed to be kept shut down because of the buildings in which the ATMs were there, okay, and you are renegotiating such prices through a court cases, then in such cases, at least the contingent level of liabilities has to be checked in. Sorry, just coming back now. Coming to the profit and loss account, has the test checking of interest, discount, commission, fees, etc. revealed excess or short credit of a material amount? If so, give the details. Okay, so here you can do the system calculation, then manual calculation, whatever you are doing. It may turn out to be any revenue leakage or so, or excess revenue claim. And if the MOC is warranted, you can give those details. Has the branch complied with the IRAC norms prescribed by RBI? Okay, so here you can give whether they have complied. If not, then except for so and so account, you can list down all the accounts. Has the test check of interest on deposits revealed any excess or short debit of material amount? So again, you can do some test checking. You cannot check everything, but a system audit approach for all these items of whether your income expenditures or the feeding of rate of interest and all, the system logs and the system audit approach to verify would give you correct results, and that will help you also to pinpoint the process level items. Okay. Does the bank have a system estimating providing interest accrued on overdue or mature deposit, including in the generally you will find this, or it might be done at the head office level. So understand how the branch function is there, and accordingly you can do it. But again, a test check approach can certainly be undertaken. Are there any divergent trends in the major items of income and expense which are not satisfactorily explained by the branch? So if there are no major divergent trends, then you may mention it. If yes, then you can seek for the explanations from the branch heads and branch management and report accordingly. Gold, bullion, and security is been given separately. Okay, so whether there is a effective joint custody similar to your effective joint custody for cash, you need to check whether there is a effective joint custody. Now you need not go and check the gold and bullion, open the packets. You have to simply check, verify the number of packets which are being there, whether these packets are sealed or not. Okay, and whether there is a valuation report by the authorized valuer of the branch panel, bank panel. Okay. Branch has maintained adequate records for the receipts, issues, and balances of gold. Okay. Similar happens for your adequate internal control for the custody of security items, that is your term deposit receipts, draft, pay orders, travelers checks, and whatever is there. Okay, so this verification is also equally important. Books and records is again this repeat point verification, whether branch is generating and verifying exception reports. Now interesting point here, earlier days there were manual reports which were generated. There were printouts which have been taken, and manager would sign on each and everything. Now, in this current scenario, how can you verify whether the exceptional reports are being actually checked by the branch manager when all the reports are generated online? Can anybody apply their mind and let me know? Just last few points here left. Yes. Okay. Now see, what happens, like again, a point of your system log. Now, if there are certain files, okay, which are being generated, so your date modified does come. So these system reported files are generated on the same day. So to make sure that there is a system date modification which is happening, once that has been happened, that means if the branch manager says that we generally check it and mark okay at the end. So the moment you are writing okay at the end, your system gets modified later on, and the new date gets saved. Second, in today's day, most of the banks, they say that unless they sign, the branch head or the in charge of that particular date, if they sign that they have verified the exceptional reports and taken necessary, they cannot go for the day end closure at the branch level. So this is actually shifting the onus from those manual things to the branch heads also. So that itself is one of the areas. But still, having said so, that just passing on the responsibility to the branch head doesn't mean that it has been done properly. Whether that verification has really been done, you can also go through the exceptional reports, and if you need process confirmation to be done in these cases, then you can always check the system logs and verify with your procedures whether it has been actually been done. The other points, manual intervention, and these are the regular ones. Coming to the last point is frauds. Now, frauds detected or classified, but confirmation of the reporting to RBI is not available. Whether any suspected or likely fraud cases are reported by branch to the higher office during the year. Okay, again the same circular of RBI, master direction on frauds. I have listed it down here, so you can check it. Okay, and go through it whether there were early warning signals. Now, for frauds, there are multiple. One, the borrower doing the fraud on the bank. The branch management is involved in collusion with the borrower for doing the fraud, and the frauds which are been otherwise detected on behalf, which have been done in the online mode. So in all of these cases, you will find that the fraud register is also maintained. What are the potential risks, or which were the mishaps, systems mishaps, which you find out because of which the fraud has undertaken. Like in certain cases, giving reference to your earlier point of the stock statement. Okay, at times the borrower keeps on giving the same stock statement. Either there can be a negligence throughout by the branch officer who simply keeps on putting that amount to maintain the DP or the previous statement and the DP. Otherwise, there can be a collusion or a fraud which has been happening. Now, once you start questioning why this is not a fraud, they will start answering you. Okay, but you have to be very confident. So at times you will find out that the creditors figures are always given in the, say, rounded off figures, 50,000, 45,000, 35,000, or debtors figures are also given like that. Okay, or maybe same figures are getting continued throughout and throughout, and without any verification in between. You will find that the verification reports are also on the record, stock inspection and all visit reports by the branch, but there is no mention of non-moving stock, slow moving stock, or slow moving debtors, or non-realization of debtors. So such cases can also be identified to see whether you can actually report them under fraud. KYC guidelines also, all the branches they have their internal connect with the one dedicated center for every bank, wherein specifically all the guidelines related to prevention of money laundering and terrorist financing, the checks are being carried out by them. Plus, opening of accounts is, although collection of documents may or may not be done at the branch level. Okay, but the verification is done only at the backend level, wherein the implementation you can always do some sample test checks. And for this, I would suggest that you can use the accounts which are having very high value transactions which are recently opened, or you may find some suspicious transactions also coming from the STR, suspicious transaction report. Management information system, whether the branch has the proper systems and procedures to ensure that the integrity of the data, the integrity of data inputs which are used for MIS at corporate office level for supervisory reporting have come across any date instance where integrity was compromised. So again, now generally you will find out that even these portals are not allowed for using your pen drives or external hard disk also. Or in case of emails also, email has to go through only from the branch designated IDs only. But if you find out there are some other areas also which are, like they do bank payments, taxation payments also, which are done from the external PC. So you generally find two PCs in the manager's cabin or at the functional cabin. Okay. So make sure that they are not connected with the internal systems also. So if you find certain lacunas, you can always list them out here. Miscellaneous things, that is all the previous LFARs or the branch auditors report, internal audit, snap audits, concurrent audit, credit audit, whatever name you say. Okay, internal inspections, RBI inspection, IS audit and all, you have to go through them, find out whether there are, because again, as I said, the focus is now shifting to the process audits. Okay, so the moment it is coming to the process audits, you have to be very, very clear that your focus is on the reporting of the internal controls, the robustness of the system. Okay, and accordingly any mishaps, specifically if it has been already reported in some other report, whether corrective action has been taken on the same and how effective the corrective systems are now. So those comments you will have to give it here. So this is specifically regarding the changes this year. Okay, I'll share this Excel to Jnanish. He can give it to all those who are require it. Okay.
Okay, before concluding, I would like to open the forum to all members. If they are having any questions, any questions regarding whether discuss or not discuss regarding bank audit, they can come up and ask. They can even put questions in chat box, or if they want, they can unmute and say speak or
No questions.
okay. No questions. Okay, I'm putting feedback form and WhatsApp chat link where the PDF, where the Excel will be shared, which will be shared by Gaurav. Make sure you join that WhatsApp group and give feedback. Okay. Thanks, Gaurav. Your explanation was very well detailed, I think, and the session was quite interactive with the chat box, and many of them were speaking as well. I'm assured that each and everyone has gained some knowledge of the new procedure and audit procedure and will start their procedure. On behalf of HRD committee, I would like to thank all the participants and Gaurav for conducting this study circle and seminar. Thanks, Gaurav. There
Thank
is
you,
a one
Jnanish.
question. Yeah,
Yes, yes. Rishi has sent one question. See, Rishi, if an account is slipped into NPA in October 18, okay, how will the account be classified on 30? Now, if it is already slipped into NPA, okay, so then you check out for the criteria from the substandard to D1 and all. So whatever your time limit is getting completed. Second, you will have to check for the security value for that. If the security has been eroded, then straight away it will go to the loss asset. Is this what you wanted to ask or anything else? Because your timelines is October 18 to 31st March 21.
Rishi, you can unmute yourself
Yeah,
and
this is
speak up.
already beyond that 1 year period. So substandard के आगे ही जाएगा वो. But then on the basis of your security valuation, you will have to also see whether to keep it in doubtful assets or straight away bring it to the loss asset. So you can in this I have given the references to IRAC circulars also, master circular. So from that you can straight away pick up the criteria. Just I would say two things. If you're doing it for cooperative, the urban cooperative banks, then there is a separate circular, master circular, which has been issued by RBI. So make sure for cooperative banks you use that circular, and for your nationalized banks you use the circular which has been given for the PSU banks. Yes, Sharik, I'll send share the Excel. Don't worry.
Yes, that
Sir,
will be on. Yeah, Rishi's.
Security value has also eroded, but valuation is done only for 50% of the property. So 50% of the property, they are already writing it off, right? So to the extent of that 50% of property, it will become a loss asset. And rest of the 50% of the property, on the basis of the latest valuation, whatever is there, accordingly your provisioning will change. That value which is 100% eroded. So when you are saying 50% valuation is done, I assume that the rest 50% is eroded. So what portion which is 100 which is completely eroded, for that portion you will have to do 100% of provisioning.
Yes, Shahrukh was asking something.
sir, continuing with the same question, I wanted to ask that uh, in mortgage loan, if there is an overdue amount, but against that we have a proper security and there is a valuation certificate which certifies that loan can be recovered from that. So are we supposed to propose that as an NPA?
In case of mortgage loan, so mortgage property loan, right?
Yes, yes, yes. We have a security against that one, but it has become overdue for more than a period of 90 days.
Yes, but tell me one thing, like take the simple example of your SOC book debts, or again your FD loans also. Now FD loans generally they keep a value, underlying value which is there,
Correct, correct,
right?
correct.
So for mortgage loans also, it is actually, if you say it is a LAP, loan against the property, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are keeping, they are just making sure that that security is mortgage. For stock and book trades also, security is mortgage. Or in case of term loans also, when you are saying that whatever machinery and everything you are taking, after deducing the margins, the security is been either hypothecated or mortgage or pledged to the bank, right?
Correct,
So
correct,
in
correct.
all these cases, your IRAC norms will apply as it is. It is only in case of your say NSCs, in case of your FDs, where security valuation is generally so NSCs, what happens is they are backed by central government. Your LICs are there or your FDs are there, where your security is very clear and which has to be realized. So in case of securities, NPAs also, they do not make the account NPA because the value of the FD keeps on increasing,
Right.
right? That is the reason they don't make it NPA. So these are very specific criteria which are listed. Apart from that, everything you have to follow the IRAC norms.
Okay, then we have to put it on MOC then,
Yes,
even though we
yes,
have a proper valuation certificate.
yes. They are saying not it has not to be done.
No, no, I was just asking. So I was
Ah.
like, they are saying that we can recover it. No, we have a valuation certificate and all.
No, the question is not of
But IRAC
recovery. So
norms.
then you can recover it from the stocks also, right?
Correct, correct, correct.
Right. You can recover it from the machinery. You can recover it from the vehicle also, vehicle
If
loans.
as you said, in every case there will be a nonetheless security will be
Right.
definitely.
In case of a vehicle also, unless it is say registered with your local RTO, right, that the documentation or is of no use. So if you are having a control of your RC book, the registration of charge has been completely done, then tomorrow who will say that the value is not there?
Not
It
it,
is,
not.
it is not that way, right? So
And we have to follow IRAC norms.
yes, you will have to follow the IRAC now. Now since today's lecture was not on IRAC, I would just mention that when you're asking for classification, whether it is provisioning or anything, one statement as I made, don't make your answers subjective. Just pinpoint on the exact para of the IRAC norms, then they will have nothing to say against that. Even if you are classifying anything as a NPA or not as a NPA, or asking to do more provisions, pinpoint to the very exact para of the IRAC norms. Okay,
Understood.
that circular is in force. Banks cannot issue a circular which is contrary to the RBI circular.
Yes,
They
sir,
can have
definitely.
additional limits, but they cannot issue a circular which is contrary to that, making it more lenient.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
There's one more question.
15th October. Before the end of October. See, others, this is the case which I was referring. Now, technically, when you say there was one question whether there is no manual intervention in identification of NPS. Herein, the RBI wants to see that the 90 days criteria is not done at the month end. Okay, so on 15th, if any particular account becomes overdue for more than 90 days, that is 91st day overdue is hit, say on 16th in your case, then that account should get classified automatically as a NPA in your books, in your accounts on 16th. Now on October 30th, you are saying that he is paying 2 months overdue. Now, as I referred in between the process, again, since this is not a lecture on IRAC, but in between I said that for upgradation, you have to make sure that the payment of all the dues which were there has to be done. So in case of say, assuming this is a CCOD account, where the account had become overdue only for the reason of non-servicing of 3 interest. Okay, so 2 months interest is paid, but 1 month interest is still unserviced, right? Now, repaying those 2 months interest after it has become NPA doesn't make it again a performing asset. To make it a performing asset, it has to you have to make sure that all the 3 months interest has been paid. Once that interest has been paid in totality, then you can make that account as a performing asset, and then again start application of 1 month overdue, 2 month overdue, and this just by bringing down the overdue level, or it is staying overdue beyond 90 days in this pattern, and you are bringing the account simply in the limit wouldn't suffice. Okay, whatever is your actual overdue, either on the which is your interest overdue, or your excess which has been utilized by any other application, you have to make sure that 100% recovery has to be done in this particular case as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Anyone? Okay, so we will wind up the student seminar over here, student lecture meeting, student study circle. Thanks, Gaurav, and thanks participants for joining us.
Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts also.
And thank you for sharing your Excel with all the participants, which actually is your own, what you call that, your own file, which you have prepared over the period of time, and we generally people don't share actually. Yeah. Thanks for that
Yeah.
also. Thank you. Bye guys. Join WhatsApp group and give the feedback form. We will share the Excel file over there shortly. I will share the Excel file over WhatsApp group shortly. Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks. Bilal, you can end the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.